You know, I'm beginning to believe that we might need an entirely separate judicial system to look at cases that involve sex workers. Because the details of this next woman's relationship with Harvey Weinstein, for which he earned, by the way, 3 years in prison, are absolutely offensive to my senses. I am personally offended looking into this. I guess I'll start by asking you a question. Outside of a situation of captivity, right? A true horrific criminal captivity, something like Elizabeth Smart. How does someone get raped over 5 years? That may be in a situation where you're living with someone, you have no power. I could see that. But how does somebody who's free to roam wherever they want, never knew this person until they were 27 years old, get continually raped for over 5 years? Because that's apparently what happened to Jessica Mann. She claims that's what happened to her, sexual assaults for 5 years. And I have a lot of questions. So I'm just going to roll right into this episode 3 of Harvey Speaks. So, first and foremost, I want to explain something to you guys that may not have been clear in previous episodes because I know a lot of people are wondering what would be the reason that any woman might subject herself to a criminal case for sexual assault or rape. Why would you want to be on the stand? What do you actually get out of that? What do you win for that, right? It's criminal. He's going to go to prison. Obviously, they must be telling the truth. And clearly, Gloria Allred, who I should mention represented these women for free in these criminal cases, she just must be a wonderful human being, a truly wonderful human being who is just on the path to lock up monsters. Credit to Gloria Allred. Well, you should know that under the law, you can't go after a company or sue somebody civilly for rape unless you at first secure a criminal conviction. So you essentially can't go after their insurance company if you're going after the Weinstein company for millions or whatever it is, which there was this large settlement that was given to a lot of these women who made allegations. You have to go the criminal route at first. And I want to be also clear about Gloria Allred, who presents herself as some sort of a Me Too martyr. She tends to represent women on the criminal side for free, but she takes 40% of whatever it is that they then secure from the man or the business if they go after them. Okay. So she's raking in a ton of money, 40%. Could you imagine this woman represented even when it doesn't go to court? Wasn't she the lawyer that was on the Tiger Woods case? Think about how much money she has made. She loves this. She absolutely loves these sorts of allegations against rich men. That's my opinion of Gloria Allred. Anyways, now, if you are a woman who, for the sake of this hypothetical argument, had sex with Harvey Weinstein for years, okay, you agreed to do that and you did not get the career and the lifestyle that you had imagined in your mind that you would get for that sort of a sacrifice, you may look to receiving a big payday, right? A big payday down the line because now you're just a washed up actress and you might start reimagining your sexual relationship with him as not consensual. And believe it or not, in 2020, that was very possible because in America, jurors were consumed with this question. What actually is consent? We don't remember anymore. Do you guys remember the Me Too movement and all of those articles that were telling us that you could even revoke your consent after you had already consented to the sex? They were instituting all of these new rules. Men had to ask questions, had to check in even during the act. Are you still consenting? Are we consenting? Have we consented? Did we consent yesterday? Is everybody consenting? I'm not being funny. These are the kinds of things that were being reimagined in the era of hashtag Me Too. Okay, so even if you consented to something at the time, maybe on the inside you were screaming and you weren't screaming outwardly, you weren't saying no outwardly, but if in your mind, while the act was taking place, you were going, I don't know if I want to do this. Well, who's to say whether or not it was true consent? We'll leave that up to a jury. Perfect time for you guys to meet Jessica Mann. Here's Jessica Mann. Today, she is 39 years old, and she is indeed the woman who put Harvey away for the additional 3 years for rape. Okay, not aggravated sexual assault, for actual rape. And so I should tell you their relationship, tell you a little bit about their relationship and how they met back in 2013. She began a relationship with Harvey Weinstein. And I want to be clear about her age because it's very important. People are always imagining when you say an aspiring actress, I think they're always thinking of a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old just getting into Hollywood. No, Jessica was 27 years old. She was 27 years old, so she was a fully matured adult woman, a neurologically developed adult, okay? Jessica, per her own account, was a runaway from home. She grew up on a dairy farm in Washington state. She had a tumultuous relationship with her father, which we will discuss. A big component of all of these things, you tend to find these women tend to have bad relationships with their fathers. And so what she decided to do was that she up and booked a one-way ticket to Burbank, California, and she never looked back. She began, you guessed it, pursuing a career in acting. She met Harvey Weinstein, the big Harvey Weinstein Hollywood producer, at a party in Los Angeles. And she testified that after that meeting, she immediately felt pressured to have sex with him. He just wanted to have sex with her. She says that it started at first with a request for a massage, which she acquiesced to. Then she says that he forced oral sex on her during a meeting about a potential movie role. And I want you to remember that because she wasn't alone. She was with a friend meeting about a potential movie role. She says to get out of that situation, obviously you imagine that's very traumatizing. She just had to like fake her way out of it. You get what I'm implying there. And right there, again, I know we did this with Mimi Halei, but if you got out of that situation and you thought, I did not want to do that, even though I didn't say no, I would probably say, since you don't know this guy at all and you just met him, maybe don't go back right there. End it. Just end the relationship. But that doesn't seem to be the circumstance with these older women. And what I mean by older women, I mean 27 years old. You're 27. You're not a spring chicken by Hollywood standards. You're young, but you're a fully adult woman. So I'm just thinking maybe don't go back. But I'm crazy. Okay. She admitted to the jury that she had then agreed to a few sexual encounters with Harvey, leading up to what she's eventually going to describe as her rape. But that in those initial agreed to encounters, they had never had full intercourse. So that's what made this one thing different that's coming up, right? Upon reflection, she felt that really the only reason that she had agreed to those earlier encounters in the first place was because Harvey had dangled the possibility of work in front of her. Now, to me, if I'm sitting on the jury, just that right there is quite a confession. Okay, you're kind of saying I'm 27 years old, and the only reason I had sex with him was because I thought I could get a job. And I think legally, maybe not legally, because Harvey's the one that got convicted of rape, but like, is that prostitution? When you sell your body because you want something in return? I'm just asking questions, you guys. Anyway, similar to Mimi Halei, who put him in prison for 20 years, just weeks later after these consensual encounters, she somehow wound up with Harvey Weinstein in a Midtown Manhattan hotel room, and that is where she says the rape took place. Now, Jessica told jurors that she was not sexually attracted to Harvey, but she pitied him after she saw him naked, telling them, quote, "When I first saw him naked, I was filled with compassion. Absolute compassion," because remember, we spoke about this in the first episode. You know, Harvey Weinstein got gangrene, he had a surgery, and we're going to describe how she describes things in a little bit. But she was overwhelmed with absolute compassion having seen him like that. And she described the day of that leading up to that rape, saying that Weinstein had persuaded her to come into his DoubleTree hotel suite. He basically booked this suite in the DoubleTree because she was staying there. And then she says that he prevented her from leaving by blocking the door. She says, quote, I gave up at that point. That she was sobbing through her testimony on the stand. She says that she, quote, I undressed. He stood over me until I was completely naked, and he told me to lay down in the bed. He went to the bathroom, so then they're separated, and then he came out naked, and then that is when the alleged rape occurred. And that's terrible. That is terrible. If that was a sequence of events, that would be absolutely terrible. It makes sense, therefore, according to her version of events, that in January of this year, upon hearing news that Harvey Weinstein was asking a judge to move up his appeal, he wants this appellate process to happen as soon as possible, she gave a rather blunt statement to People magazine. She heard that he pleaded citing his leukemia. I don't know if you know that, but Harvey Weinstein has since been diagnosed with leukemia. So he goes back and forth from the hospital and his health is failing. And he described the climate at Rikers prison as a hellhole to the judge. And so Jessica Mann replied with absolutely no remorse or understanding and said, quote, "The irony of Weinstein begging for privilege to be released out of his hellhole is not lost on me." She said, "The hell he put in my hole will last a lifetime," end quote. Wow, okay, aggressive, a bit graphic. With a statement like that, if you knew nothing about this case, you would have to believe she'd lived through something that was unbelievably horrific. Still, stay with me, okay? You might be a little bit confused by the media's description of a sexual assault that took place over 5 years. 5 years is just a long time. It's half a decade. And so you might have some questions and you might want to fill in the details here. And so I'm going to introduce to you some alternative facts to you regarding the situation. Now, to reiterate the date, it was March 18th, 2013 that her alleged rape happened at the DoubleTree Hotel. March 18th, 2013. Don't worry, tomorrow we're still going to unpack her allegations and go through her testimony, and I will give you guys a timeline as always. But for now, the date you need to know is 2013. The alleged rape also took place in the morning time. What factually happened after it is definitely confusing. So we know that this rape took place early in the morning in his suite at the DoubleTree. And then what we know via email change is that on the very same day, but that evening at 7:50 p.m., Jessica Mann was emailed a ticket from the Weinstein office paying for her flight to Los Angeles the following day. I want you to take a look at this. This is somebody who works for Harvey. Good evening, Jessica. You see that date, 7:50 p.m. Please find below your new e-ticket for tomorrow. Please be sure to look over all the details to ensure everything is as expected and what you needed. Similarly, do you need us to book you a car to the airport? In either case, once you've looked over the below, please email me to confirm that you've received this and are set. Thank you, John Logan. Okay, let's pull that back up because underneath it is even more telling because it's not like John just got around to sending her the ticket. He clearly had just booked it. So that's a confirmation email below from Delta Airlines, and it is the timestamp to 7:25 p.m. So we've all flown on planes. We know you book it online and then you immediately, within 10 minutes, if it's running a little bit late, get a confirmation email from whatever airline you're flying. So we know he booked that ticket 25 minutes earlier before he forwarded it to her, okay? Very interesting. So you had a rape that happened in the morning, and then we are left with what happened leading up to it that let his office email you a ticket, just like Mimi, by the way. It's always this thing, like they have these incidents happen, and then the next thing we know, the Weinstein office is paying for their flights, okay? We then learned from these emails that she confirmed that she wanted them to arrange a car from her DoubleTree Hotel to the New York City airport. I can show you that. She says, "Hi, John, thank you." Look at the time there, by the way. This is actually the next day. I mean, if I would guess, she's either severely jet lagged or she's out, right? 1:07 a.m. She replies to that email that was sent to her at 7:50. And she says very early in the morning, "Thank you. I'd like a ride to the airport. It would help a lot as this is my first time here." This is her first time in New York City. "And I'm not sure how to handle getting there. Thank you. Once I land, I can find a ride home. Thanks." Okay, fine. And then he asks her where she'd like her pickup. He responds to her at 5:06 a.m. I'm sure he was sleeping through the 1 a.m. And she said, "My hotel will be fine at 10:08 a.m. Now we have that ticket. Her flight was not until 4 p.m. later that day. And here's where it gets interesting because now, mind you, she survived a rape. And maybe if I'm like going really pro-victim here, I'd say, well, she just wanted to get back to Los Angeles by any means necessary. And so, yes, she said, I'm new to New York. I'm not figuring out the subway system. Yes, I don't have the money. Please just get me to the airport because I live in Los Angeles. I don't know what this place is. And this has been a traumatizing experience for me, right? That's where your mind would go if you're like advocating for Jessica here. Okay, let's keep an open mind. Maybe she is telling the truth. Then this next email gets even weirder because then she requests, because you think now you're in LA, this is your home, you know how to get around here. She requests for them to send a driver on the LA side. She requests Harvey's driver. This is one of Harvey's drivers. She says, "Thank you, John," at 11:04 a.m. "I'm unable to find a ride last minute from LAX to blank. Are there any drivers in LA or shuttle services?" Okay, now, don't know about you guys. If you guys ever been to LA, that's not a thing. Just right there, I can tell you, you can't find a driver from LAX, one of the busiest airports in America. I can't find a driver from New York City. You're landing at, if you're leaving at 4 p.m. and you're getting time back from New York, you're landing at 7 o'clock p.m. in the evening in LAX-ish, okay? She's saying she can't find a driver, and she asks for one. So let's get that email back up. They say, "Okay, hello, Jessica. Your driver in LA this evening will be Jerry Jones." Jerry Jones, again, this is one of Harvey's drivers, okay? It's a guy named Freddie and a guy named Jerry who works for Freddie. "Here's his mobile number. Please let us know if you have any questions. Otherwise, safe travels." Now, that to me seems like a lot. I feel like if I had survived a rape, I would not want to then be subjected unnecessarily to being in the car with the drivers of the person who had raped me. But again, I'm reading myself into this situation. What do I know? Let's keep going. What happened? What exactly happened? Why is she in New York City? Why is she communicating with this team? The good thing is we're going to be able to fill in some more details regarding the day of her rape, and it might make a little more sense. Now, I should mention that what we can confirm is that Jessica did not fly to New York to meet with Harvey Weinstein. Instead, she actually flew to New York with a friend of hers, a Hollywood agent named Thomas Richards Lozano. Thomas was actually in town for one night only. He had a client in New York. He had received 2 free round-trip flights plus a hotel room at the DoubleTree Manhattan and some tickets to Wicked for that one night only. And so he took his friend Jessica Mann as his guest, and the two of them decided to share that hotel room. I should be clear, they stayed in separate beds. She testified she never had any sexual affair with Thomas. So this was truly a friend trip. They're like, yes, let's go and have this one night in New York because she had never been there. Now, on the evening before her encounter with Harvey, Thomas and Jessica, therefore, were out together, presumably to see Wicked, as that's what he had tickets to. Jessica then returned back to their room at the DoubleTree Hotel thereafter, while Thomas stayed out, and it sounds like he had a little bit of fun into the night. The following morning, March 18th, is when Harvey then comes to her hotel. He books himself that suite at the DoubleTree, and that is when the aforementioned incident happens, okay, on March 18th in the morning. And what happens next is quite interesting because afterwards, they decided to go downstairs and join Thomas and also her best friend, a Brazilian actress named Thalita Maia, for breakfast at the hotel. Okay, so the incident happened, and then she went downstairs for breakfast. So obviously, there are a lot of reasons could be, you don't feel safe, you're trying to whatever. I can tell you that on the stand, Jessica admitted to jurors that she did not mention the rape to either of them, not to her best friend Thalita, not to her Hollywood agent friend that she was in town for. And oddly, therefore, Thalita and Thomas testified on behalf of Weinstein. Thomas told the jury that Jessica Mann and Weinstein had been friendly with each other that morning at breakfast, and said that Mann took him aside and asked him if it was okay if she didn't travel back with him to Los Angeles. He said, quote, she had asked him, quote, if it was okay if she didn't travel back with me to Los Angeles. So she was supposed to be going back with him, but he testified that Weinstein, quote, invited Mann at the table, at the breakfast table, to stay an extra night. And that was the last time that he saw Mann that morning. She appeared normal and she appeared like her everyday self. Okay, so I do want to slow that down once again. She was supposed to return on a ticket back with Thomas to LA on the 18th, okay, which was the morning that she had this horrific event happen to her. Rather, Harvey at breakfast with her friends, okay, requests her to stay an extra night in New York. And she says yes and says to Thomas, I'm sorry. I know that you got that ticket for me. I'm actually going to stay here. And now those emails are beginning to make sense. That contextualizes the email suddenly. He sends her an updated ticket. He's buying her a ticket back to LA. But why stay the extra night? What did she do that night? Well, we know she actually opted to go to a Weinstein Company event. They were having the premiere of August Osage County, and she brought her friend Talita with her. And Harvey was present at that event that night. And perhaps that explains, maybe that explains why it was like 1:03 a.m. in the morning when she emailed and asked for the ride home, because it was a late night. That might also explain the reason that Talita Maya, her former best friend and one-time roommate, so strongly condemned Jessica Mann's version of events when she hit the stand. She had been hanging out with Jessica Mann for years. She had been friends with Jessica, the best of friends with Jessica, since she met Harvey Weinstein. And she had a radically different understanding of their relationship and their bond because, according to Talita, Jessica and Harvey endured not only a consensual sexual relationship, but Jessica had gone far enough so as to describe Harvey to her as her soulmate, her spiritual soulmate. Witness says, this is a headline in the New York Times. From the New York Times, I'm going to read this directly. It says, Ms. Maya, 35 years old at the time that she's giving this testimony, told the jury that she met Jessica Mann in late 2012 on a movie set. Several months later, Ms. Maya said they met Mr. Weinstein at a party in Los Angeles. Neither of them recognized him, she said. When Mr. Weinstein explained who he was, Ms. Maya recounted, joking, "That's why everyone is being so nice to you." Ms. Maya said that Miss Mann placed her arm around Mr. Weinstein, pinched his cheek, and said, "No, it's because he's so cute." Oh, so upon first meeting, they don't know who this guy is. Just to slow that down for you, they're together because they're friends. And they see this guy who everyone's just like throwing themselves, everyone's on her. He's this guy who's doing all the movies. And then Miss Maya makes the joke, "Oh, that's why everyone's being nice to you." And Jessica Mann says, "No, it's because he's so cute." This is according to her best friend, not me. Let's keep going. From a New York Times article, quote, Ms. Maya said Mr. Weinstein and Ms. Mann then walked off to a secluded area. Ms. Mann gave Mr. Weinstein her phone number later that night. Ms. Maya said, adding, quote, "She seemed impressed." Ms. Maya's account contradicted Ms. Mann's testimony. Ms. Mann had said that Mr. Weinstein had lured her and Ms. Maya to the Montage Beverly Hills Hotel, where the producer invited them to discuss their careers. Then, Ms. Mann said he brought them to his suite where he forced oral sex on her. Ms. Mann had testified that the more she protested, the angrier Mr. Weinstein got. But Ms. Maya said that she did not hear any commotion and that Ms. Mann had willingly walked into the bedroom with Mr. Weinstein. Ms. Maya added that her friend appeared normal that night and not upset. Before that meeting, Ms. Maya said Ms. Mann told her that she had met with Mr. Weinstein at a hotel where she sang for him. Okay. Sounds like she's auditioning. Her friend at the time is sitting in the stand saying, "No, this is not what the relationship was." The guy is also saying, "I was there that morning. She didn't seem upset about anything. I don't know what's going on. I got back on a plane. She said she was changing her ticket." Okay, now here's what I can tell you. There are a lot of emails. Just take a look at this scroll. Hundreds upon hundreds of emails between Harvey and Jessica Mann. Okay. And I have read through them, and obviously there's way too many for me to show you. I obviously could drop them onto a website and you should read them. Okay. Because they do nothing to dispel the idea, is what I will say, of a very consensual relationship that spanned for 5 years. 5 years. So here are just a few of these emails that I am referring to as an example, right? So a month earlier, on March 18th, we said is when the incident took place that she described as a rape, which eventually led to Harvey being locked up for 3 years. A month after that, on April 11th, less than a month after that, so we're talking 3 weeks after that encounter, this is an email that she sent to Harvey that was her venting her frustration that she's learning that other women are auditioning for her part in Vampire Academy. She says, I have an agent who wants to know who the point people are for the creative end of Vampire Academy. Last I heard, 3 girls are up for the role of Natalie, and Mia's breakdown has gone out, which is who I want to audition for. And Barbara hasn't returned my last emails regarding VA. I'm beginning to think no one is taking me seriously? Question mark. Oh, so remember, we remember Barbara. Barbara was also in Mimi's case. Barbara, I think it's Shanice something. And she works for Harvey Weinstein's heart. She's upset Barbara's not answering her emails. She's saying, you're supposed to try to help me get this role. This is 3 weeks after her alleged rape. I want to be clear. Here's another email that I'm just plucking from the obscurity. We'll have much more of a detailed timeline for you. But this one's from July 29th, 2014, because this was so stunning to me when I saw it that I just went, I got to just share this one because help me, ladies that are out there, make this make sense. We're now talking about a year and 3 months after, and many, many emails after your alleged rape, many, many more dalliances after your alleged rape, many more times you go into hotel rooms with him after your alleged rape. But she plans for Harvey to take her and her mother on this July 29th, 2014, out for drinks. Look at this. Look at this email chain. It's unbelievable. She said, he emails her first and says, I'll be in LA tomorrow night. Are you free around 9:30 p.m. for a drink? Jessica replies and says, it would be great to see you. However, my mother would be with me if we stopped by. She is here till Thursday afternoon. I have Thursday evening free so far. Tomorrow, depending on if you want us to swing by, we are thinking of going to Soho with my girlfriend if she gets back in time. Dear Jessica, he replies, if you want to stop by with your mom at 9:30, you can come, or come by the Soho house at 9:30 p.m. All my best, Harvey. Jessica writes back, yeah, she would love to meet you. Plus, you can see how good my jeans are. Winky face. Which is easier? You want to go to the Soho with us or stay at the Peninsula? Darn it, another hotel with Harvey Weinstein. Winky face. Winky face like this. Winky face. You can see how good my jeans are. You guys want to meet my mom? You can see how good my jeans are. Yeah, that's what she's doing to Weinstein. I don't know. He raped her a year and 3 months ago. Now she's dropping the winky faces and saying, do you want to meet my mom? Because she would love to meet you. I don't know many moms who would love to meet the person who raped their daughters. But Jessica says this is a situation. And so what ends up happening later on in that correspondence is Harvey then changes it for a lunch at the Peninsula due to some scheduling conflicts. So Harvey apparently meets Jessica's mom. I thought that was weird. Is that weird? People in the chat, I'm just gonna check and see, like, am I weird? Is everybody else weird? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think that's pretty weird. In September of 2014, this is another strange one that jumped out at me. She's messaging Harvey about a bad breakup that she has. September, later that year, after meeting her mom, a few months later, she's telling him that she had a bad breakup and she's looking for consolation with him, okay? So I'll show you that email. She writes to him, bah, rough day. When are you back in LA, my friend? And he says, what happened? And she says, just tell me when you're in LA, smiley face. He says, Friday for a few hours. She writes, went through a breakup, was hoping for dinner with you. Holy, I'm in New York City. You okay? Want to come here tomorrow? Okay. I just do not know in what world you would want to be consoled by a person who raped you when you break up with your boyfriend, saying like, are you back? I'd like to see you, all of these things. And like I said, there are hundreds of emails that are just like this. And some fun facts, this is all happening after she was raped. He got her a job cutting hair at the Peninsula Hotel because she was also a cosmetologist. She also writes to him and asks him if he can get her into the Soho House, which is that super exclusive club, trendy, and you need a sponsor to be able to get into the Soho House. And he said, I will sponsor you. I will sponsor your application to get in the Soho House. And that's how she became a member there. He also gives her money for her car when she's having some car trouble. And you learn through her testimony, which we're going to go through tomorrow, that the two of them embarked on threesomes together following her rape. I'm just giving you guys the facts here, okay? I'm just giving you the facts. I'm wondering if you were sitting in that jury box, what you would be thinking as you're reading through hundreds and hundreds of emails and learning all of these things. Here's another fun fact. The district attorney administered 3 lie detectors to Harvey Weinstein, which he passed. He passed all 3 of them. One of them was about Jessica Mann. And he has been willing to take more because he is saying, I was in a consensual sexual relation with this woman for years. So you're probably wondering, and I'm looking at the chat right now, you're probably wondering how the hell they were able to secure a conviction. Just how? What happened? And we spoke about this in the last episode, but it was basically a free-for-all. They allowed the Molyneux rule. People could just come in and say stuff about him, whether it was true or false. It didn't matter. They could just say, he punched his brother. He gave me a dirty look. He stole my pencil in 3rd grade. This is a bad, bad man. Bad man. We learned that the judge was asked to recuse himself because they spotted, I guess, the mayor's office thought there was some corruption, and he refused to do that. It was the wild, wild west. And what could have convinced them that Jessica Mann, despite the overwhelming evidence that she was very content in whatever their relationship was via the emails, which we'll get into tomorrow, like I said, and we'll get into her testimony, which is just incredible. What could have convinced them? And I'm going to go with emotion, okay? Because I know that one thing that likely could have contributed to persuade the jury that Jessica was a victim was the fact that she had a panic attack on the stand when she was recounting a sexual assault that had occurred in her youth. Not something that happened from Harvey Weinstein, but something unrelated to Harvey Weinstein. And she was then brought down from the stand and put into the witness chambers, and she just started screaming in pain, having gone back into this memory of this sexual assault that had nothing to do with Harvey. But you imagine you're a jury, you hear this woman screaming. And she then, by the way, contextualized for the judge and the jury what those screams were about. And here is what she said eventually to News Nation about that moment in her own words. Take a listen.
Mann says she completely broke down on the witness stand when it came out in court that she had been sexually assaulted when she was younger. She left the courtroom and could be heard screaming from a back room. And some questioned whether her emotional collapse would affect the trial.
I was just brutally stretched in every way on that stand. And I just hit a breaking point, and I went into tremendous flashbacks. Everything that I had trapped inside of me just released. And it was so much at once. It was overwhelming. I was on the floor processing this, but to finally vocalize those screams, even though I was in the pain of reliving it, was something that needed to happen. That took that moment for that to happen.
At the close of the trial, Mann read a letter to the judge aloud, explaining her screams that day.
Your Honor, the day my uncontrollable screams were heard from the witness room was the day my full voice came back into my power. Those were the screams that wanted to come out while Harvey was raping me. Those were the screams of a terrified young woman reliving experiences of horrific violence against her body. Those were the screams that will forever haunt those who witnessed me.
So that's what happened. She had a panic attack and she went into the room. She started screaming, guttural screams, screaming. The jury could hear her. The judge could hear her, and they're wondering what's going on. And now she's contextualized it for those of you who are wondering, is that those were all of the screams of everything she's ever lived through in her life. Everything, you know? Every feeling she's ever felt since her childhood, those were the screams, the guttural screams. And people wondering if that could have colored the jury, tainted the jury a little bit. I mean, I would go with yes. I would go with maybe perhaps this trial being overturned was the correct thing that happened, because it does seems to be the case. Every time I look into one of these women who put Harvey in prison, that wherever there seems to be evidence lacking, there is a lot of emotion. There are breakdowns and things that happen when you can't really answer basic questions. You just scream and cry. shake uncontrollably, say you need a break, say you need water. It's almost like someone is like coaxing them to do that. Like someone is training them, like, this is what you should do in this circumstance. If you get asked a tough question and you don't think you're going to win this thing, you got to have some lady feelings. I'm just saying. I'm just delivering you the facts of what happened during that trial. So if you're wondering, when people are pretending that this getting overturned was crazy, it's actually the most sane thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And we're not even scratching the surface here. Wait till we get to her testimony. I actually am going to read you a letter that she wrote to her boyfriend in May of 2014. First, I just want to throw it to a couple of our sponsors. The Wellness Company. If you've been experiencing fatigue, bloating, or brain fog, your health issues could be caused by an invisible enemy. Because what if parasites are the real culprit? If you have never done some digging into parasite cleanses, you definitely should. There's ivermectin and mebendazole. They are two very powerful anti-pathogens. But what's even more fascinating is that these medications are frequently used in oncology to treat cancer patients. They have anti-pathogenic properties that stunt the growth of harmful invaders and even have the potential to slow down abnormal cell growth. Did you know that 60 million Americans have parasites? They secretly invade your body. They wreak havoc on your gut, your energy levels, and of course, your brain. The Wellness Company has a solution for you. Ivermectin plus mebendazole, FDA-approved parasite solutions now combined in one cleanse combo. You just fill out a brief medical intake form to get your 3-month supply. My manager, Savannah, is very excited about trying this with the Wellness Company, and you should be too. The Wellness Company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so that you can live your best life. So head to twc.health/Candace and use code Candace to save $90 off plus free shipping. Cleanse your body today at twc.health/Candace and use code Candace. Also remind you guys about Tax Network USA, because 'tis the season. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. And with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up. So if you owe back taxes or if you have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. The longer you do, the worse it gets. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing that you can do. Getting ahead of this now is a smart move, but never, never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you, because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning that they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid, with proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. So talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Candace. That's visit tnusa.com/Candace. All right, you guys. Now I'm looking at the chat, and people are not finding Jessica Mann to have been convincing in that at the opportune moment, she went back into her childhood and staged a scream for everything she had ever lived through. And there could be a reason that she did not make it as an actress. I find a lot of these women to be quite sickening, if I'm being frank about this. And I'm just, like I said, I've told you my stake in this. There are real victims. There are plenty of real, actual victims who do not correspond for 5 years with the people who raped them, who do not invite their moms to meet them, whose moms do not love to meet them, winky face, so they can see where they get their genes from. There are plenty of people who have lived through horrific circumstances and who have gotten out of those circumstances and did not do any of the things that these washed up actresses seem to partake in my viewpoint. Now, like I said, no doubt Harvey would not be in the circumstance had he not cheated on his wife. He is not blameless and he is not an innocent person, but I do not find him to be guilty of the crimes for which he is given 23 years for, ladies and gentlemen. 23 years past a lie detector test that was given by the point person for the district attorney. So the district attorney said, this is the best person to do the lie detector test. He took that lie detector test and he passed it. Okay. Now, I want to read this email to you. So Jessica Mann was apparently in a relationship, and we'll get into more of that tomorrow because they're in this, like her and Harvey are hooking up, and then she kind of says, I don't want to hook up anymore because she's got some stuff going on, and that's going to be this boyfriend, I presume. But on May 22nd, 2014, her and her boyfriend apparently had broken up. Maybe that's why she asks Harvey to console her a couple of months thereafter. And she writes him this email And he never writes her back. He never, ever writes her back. So I'm going to read the email that Jessica wrote about her relationship with Harvey Weinstein because I think it is relevant, okay? Dear blank, we'll just call him John. Dear John, I feel that I know in my heart what I'm about to share with you will stay right here where it is. I understand if what I say hurts so bad that you seek counsel, I will trust it is with the right people. However, your response on WhatsApp has really, really hurt because I had hoped to be met with love and I feel met with hate. So I reevaluated my reason for letting you into this part of me. It is to love you and not myself, to let you know the truth of all I am, so that you will no longer love only parts of me. I would have loved you to be in a place that you would have responded. I'm here to listen when you want to share, but I can't control that. I have desperately wanted and pushed you to have an honest relationship with me. Yet all along, there have been parts of myself back. What I'm about to say takes place around the time we first met, through the ons and offs. I knew by the things you said what you would accept in me and what you wouldn't, so I lived in fear of rejection. Then, living in fear of that rejection, I found myself angry. I was angry that because of mistakes that I had made in my life or wounds that I had, I felt judged by them. And I didn't know how to change them. And I can say, without knowing who I was at a time when I finally broke out of a cycle of relationships that were controlling, I rebelled against living my life according to the standards that someone else set. Those standards you have are actually very in line with who I am. But when we met, I had lost so much of myself to controlling relationships that I found myself competing with many aspects of myself or illusions. The illusions that I had to do opposite of what you felt so that I wouldn't feel like I was just living to win your approval. I have said, John can never know blank because I would die if he did, because I knew what would happen, and that would mean that you would never talk to me again. There were those around me who said he never needs to know. In a way, I agreed because sometimes things just don't matter or a part of the past. But what I do know is that knowing how you would feel about this information during the time I have known you created a dynamic in me that always felt like maybe I never knew the truth of your life. My secret, my fear, is knowing that a part of the dynamic I had with Harvey would mean that you would never talk to me again. I had to work through a lot of delusion in that situation and father issues. I was close enough to him to tell you that he no longer has a working penis. On the lower half of his body, he had some type of surgery or burn and is lucky to even have his parts. I never asked what happened. I once tried to tell you that I lived in Silver Lake and you were still at Carrie's at the porch. I told you how sometimes I felt hopeless and that I should just be with an older man because I'm a lost cause. Harvey was someone I believed I saw past the junk because my own issues in me found ways to bond in that situation. Whether they are true or not, I accepted that my father was that older man who dated women that were younger than me, and I, in turn, would become that kind of woman because of my failed relationships. Harvey validated me. He always offered to help me in ways that my parents did not. I felt approval to pursue the industry because he encouraged me to, and is who he is in it. My parents would never invest in me for that. I literally left my father's house to escape because I could not live the life that they wanted me to. I took the last of my money, bought a one-way ticket, had a suitcase and one bag, and flew to Burbank Airport. I arrived with nothing, no home, no direction. I just did it because that was my breaking point. God provided. A day later, I moved in with Danny in North Hollywood out of the blue and got a job with Bobby Ball. Nothing in my life fell into place until I did the unthinkable and bought that plane ticket. I used to walk 5 miles a day and from work just to live. Harvey was my father's age and gave me all the validation that I needed, that I thought at that time. He offered to give me things. I refused them all. I never let him buy me things or give me money, which he tried. I did let him change my plane ticket so I could stay an extra day in New York with Talita when I went to the August Osage County screening. I rarely saw him because of scheduling, and a big part of myself avoided him because I didn't yet control the situation. I think he liked me because in a way he couldn't get me and I didn't take from him. I didn't have an agenda other than my own wounds playing out subconsciously. I have long since had very clear boundaries with him. I still had gone to some of the invitations that he sent me, and he had always been very nice to me. I held on because I did feel a sense of friendship with him, and I felt like the situation finally was defined. I grew to know who I was. I did continue to cut his hair once or twice, and I think I had to fight for that with you because I needed to not feel shame from what I was afraid that you would think. I remember the day that I realized that I was controlling my world because I was sexually assaulted. Again, she's referring to the earlier sexual assault that happened to her before she came to LA, I presume. And that story played out where I played into sexual dynamics with people to feel like I would never be taken advantage of again. When that happened, I grieved deeply for myself. It was then I looked at the true father wounds that played out specifically in me with my father and Harvey. I tried to make him a pseudo father. I mean, she is completely admitting in this email to her boyfriend that she has daddy issues. So she pursued what I would describe as a sugar baby, sugar daddy relationship when she got to LA. And she admits that Harvey was very nice to her. She admits that when she wanted to, she put up boundaries with Harvey. So I would just like to understand, okay, for people that are listening to this, how beyond raw emotion in a courtroom, he is in prison for rape. How, despite the testimony of her best friend at the time who was there with her through their relationship with Harvey, who knew everything, was there when she says that she was assaulted multiple times, right? She was there. Were they able to just say, yeah, throw away the key? This is the power, you guys, of social justice movements. And this is the reason why you have to be very careful, because eventually they're not concerned with real justice. It's about social justice. The Me Too movement is trending. We need to hang somebody on this movement. Why not have it be someone like Harvey Weinstein so we can all go back to bed and feel like we've done something? Okay. Again, we can talk about the fact that Harvey abused his power. He did. We could talk about the fact that he was running a hotel room like it was the casting couch. He did. We could definitely speak about the fact that he is not innocent because of what he did to his wife and his kids. All of those things would be true. But you don't put a person in prison for 23 years because women wanted to trade sex for careers. Okay? That's my opinion anyways, and I'm sticking to it. All right, I'm going to tell you guys about American Financing before I read some of your comments. I am sure that you are shocked reading all of this, and it's only going to get crazier when we do the next episode because Jessica Mann really is someone. Okay, regarding American Financing, I don't know everybody's exact situation, but if you're like with thousands of homeowners, American Financing talks to every month, and you're probably struggling to keep up, barely making ends meet, drowning in high interest debt, and it's not your fault. Life just really did get more expensive. Inflation hit a lot of people very hard. If you are still carrying credit card balances with 20% plus interest rates while your mortgage sits untouched, you're ignoring the one thing that could turn it all around, which is your home. And this is where American Financing can help. Would you trade 10 minutes of your time for a shot at saving an average of $800 every single month? Because that's exactly what homeowners are doing when they call American Financing. A simple no obligation call could change everything. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants. So there isn't any incentive to put you into a loan that doesn't make sense. And there are no upfront fees to find out how much you could be saving. So don't wait. Talk to American Financing today and start feeling that relief. Call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, guys, let's get into some of your comments. First, I want to remind you that we have a new book club meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m., and I'm pretty sure the live chat is working. Is that right, Skylar and Mark? The live chat will be operational. I'm super excited about that. So we will see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern as we continue chaos. So that's going to be a very fun day. Just to get to some of your comments regarding today's episode, I'm sure you guys are very shocked learning a lot of this stuff. Spit and Fire writes, that fake slogan, believe all women, tainted the courts and jurors. Yes, as I have maintained since the beginning, I don't believe men, I don't believe women. I just like to follow the facts. And I have seen both sexes do horrific things and tell terrible lies. And we can't have a courtroom that is favoring people on the basis of their sex and saying the facts don't matter because you're crying. Caitlin writes, this is beyond absurd, ridiculous, and downright false. Do these women not have a soul? Do they not have any morals? If they ever did, they sold them years ago. No sane, righteous, virtuous person would make such egregious, abhorrent accusations. And as a survivor myself, no victim would behave in such ways toward their abuser after being assaulted, disgusted. God judges all, and these women will be judged. That's my thing, is like, I can't imagine if I put a man in prison for 20 years, it would just rot me from the inside out, knowing what I did and what my mindset was and what I was trying to get out of that person, and then pretending otherwise and knowing that that person's entire life, like he's growing up, like his kids are growing up without him, as opposed to just being honest, you know? And listen, allegedly she was honest on the stand. She honestly got him for rape. So you can't say she was lying because the jury decided that she wasn't after she had a panic attack on the stand. And a lot of things were allowed to fly in that courtroom. All I know is I will be paying close attention as his trial comes up next month. His appellate trial actually begins, which is why I'm giving you guys this background so that when you follow it, you actually know what's happening, because the media does not do its job. And certainly I don't think presented any of these facts in a manner that was clear to the public. Jessica writes, not me switching my baby's nap schedule so I can watch Candace uninterrupted. It's good. He likes the new schedule. He or she likes the new schedule, I promise. Mia writes, hi, Candace. Can you do a video about Meghan Markle's hardcore fans? They use the race card against anyone who isn't a fan or even has the slightest criticism. The victim narrative this narcissist perpetuates is getting old. Yeah, I have not yet subjected myself to her new series because I knew it was going to be super cringe. And look at Meghan Markle, D-list actress, wanted to make it into Hollywood, went and found herself a prince that would make her next door neighbors with Oprah. I saw her coming from a very far away. Now she wants everyone to forget she was D-list actress, but she's still kind of D-list acting. And now she wants us to think that she's Martha Stewart. It's weird. And I think it's sad that she just can't be her authentic self, but she had to deliver her pound of flesh to Netflix one way or the other. Her and her husband had prior agreed to that. So the first pound of flesh was delivering her family, his family, and they made a ton of money off of that. And then he went and did the Invictus Games, and she has to now do her thing. So it's happening, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. And, like I said, just speaking about this situation, people who lay their heads on pillows at night and know the things that they do, the fact that he doesn't have a relationship with his family, to me, is just unimaginable. I think, when you get married, the relationships in your family should get better. You should try to make sure those relationships get better. And nothing about that marriage sits right with me. And it has nothing to do with the color of her skin, obviously, as an American who married an Englishman and had a very different outcome. Charamar writes, thank you for doing a deep dive into this. Are we getting names of actresses who have slept with him? Yes. When I have the conversation with Harvey Weinstein that you guys can hear following his appeals, we will definitely speak about all of the actresses who came out and made allegations against him, but never actually made it to the courtroom, because there's a reason for that. And it's going to get very interesting. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to say too much right now, but like I said, Harvey Weinstein is Harvey Weinstein, and Harvey remembers. Maybe that's what I should have named this series. Harvey remembers. All right, guys, if you would like to join the book club, you can head to CandaceOwens.com and sign up and join just the book club, or maybe you want to join just A Shot in the Dark and follow the series. So many of you guys watched the MMR vaccine episode last week when we released it for free. There's so much more content coming. And of course, if you are having a child, I highly recommend that you go through that series just so you understand the basic history of all of these vaccines, so you don't just get gaslit from doctors who are telling you your baby will die unless you agree to give them a bunch of shots, many of which have very toxic chemicals in them, all of which have toxic chemicals in them. And definitely, I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to do that series and that so many people responded. Beyond that, you guys, we will see you tomorrow.